The nursing home hallway was quiet, just the distant hum of oxygen machines and the soft clinking of a lunch cart. Ethan Cole walked in wearing a tailored charcoal suit, polished shoes silent on the linoleum floor. To the staff, he looked like every other wealthy donor. To himself, he felt nothing at all. He paused near a half-open room. From inside, a frail voice was humming a lullaby, slow, gentle, the kind that raps a child to sleep. Ethan froze. His fingers brushed unconsciously over his leather notebook, the same reflex he had since childhood. That song, the exact same melody that once played in the darkest nights of his life. A song only one woman on earth ever sang to him. He stepped closer, breath growing shallow. Inside, an elderly black woman sat by the window, her thin fingers tapping to the rhythm. As if time had never moved. How could a forgotten nursing home stranger still know the secret lullaby no one else ever heard? Ethan Cole was used to applause, but today he walked in quietly. The administrator introduced him with pride. The man whose donations have kept this entire wing alive. He nodded politely. No smile. He never stayed long enough to feel anything. His life was all polished silence. Meetings, investments, awards. He built an empire, but never a home. As they walked past the rooms, Ethan's hand rested on his cufflink without thinking, a habit he developed whenever his mind was too loud. The hallway smelled faintly of disinfectant and old soup. A nurse pushed a wheelchair past him, whispering comfort to someone who barely remembered her own name. But the lullaby still echoed in his ear. He tried to shake it off, a memory like smoke, his childhood self hiding under a thin blanket. A warm voice, that voice. They reached a room where a paper sign read, "Unclaimed, no known family." The administrator sighed. "Some of them have been here 30 years. Forgotten by everyone." Ethan stopped. 30 years. His eyes fell to the name on the chart. 2 simple words. Faded ink. Mildred Lawson. His breath caught in his throat. She was supposed to be dead. He had mourned her as a child. Searched records. Found nothing. So how was her name here? And why did no one ever tell him she was still alive? Abandoned, forgotten, waiting. Ethan stood at the doorway, frozen. Mildred Lawson sat in a wheelchair facing the window, frail, her hands trembling softly on a faded blanket. The same hands that once held him when no one else would, but she did not look up. She did not know he was there. A nurse entered behind him, young, distracted. "Please do not touch her," she said sharply without looking at who she was talking to. Her memory is fragile. "And we do not need strangers confusing the residents." "Stranger?" Ethan turned slowly. "Stranger?" he repeated, calm but cold. "She has no visitors?" the nurse replied flatly. "No one has come for her in 30 years. Not a single phone call." The words hit harder than any insult. Ethan's hand instinctively tightened over his leather notebook. The same notebook where he had written her lullaby every year on her birthday, convinced she was gone forever. Then, a sound. Mildred shifted slightly. Humming again. The same melody, soft, fragile, but alive. The nurse scoffed. "She repeats that nonsense song all day. Some old tune from wherever she came from. A beat. She hardly responds to her own name. You are wasting your time. If you were here, would you speak or stay silent?" Ethan stepped forward. "She is not nonsense," he said quietly. "She is the reason I exist." The nurse frowned. "Excuse me?" Ethan ignored her and moved closer, slowly, like approaching sacred ground. "Mildred," he whispered, voice shaking for the first time in years. No reaction. He tried again. "Mama?" Her fingers twitched. For a moment, the room stopped breathing, and then nothing. She turned slightly, but her eyes remained distant. Not seeing him, hope rose, then sank. Did she truly forget the very child she once gave her life to protect? Ethan lowered himself to his knees beside her wheelchair, slowly, as if afraid to break the moment. He tried one more time. Not with her name, not even with Mama, but with the one sentence only she ever said to him every night before he slept. The one no one else in the world would know. His voice trembled. The world is cruel, but you are safe as long as you are loved. Mildred's fingers froze on the blanket. Her head turned, slowly, painfully. Her eyes, once clouded, filled. Not fully focused, but searching, straining. Ethan leaned closer, tears rising. "It is me," he whispered. "Your boy. Your Eli." A long silence. Just the hum of machines. A heartbeat that seemed to stop time. Then, her lips parted, barely a breath. "But clear, my baby." Ethan broke completely. He captured her fragile hands in his, pressing them to his face with reverence. She touched his cheek, not with strength, but with recognition. A mother's touch, slow, sacred. Her voice shook like wind on old glass. "I knew you would come." For the first time in 30 years, he felt alive. Not as a millionaire, not as a man admired, but as a son. Found again. Share this if you still believe love can find its way home, even after decades of silence. He stayed on his knees, forehead against her hand. A man the world feared. Brought to tears by the only person who ever saw him as a child. But outside this brief miracle, a harder question waited. Could he save her? Or was he already too late? Ethan did not move for a long moment. He simply held her hand, like a son who had just found the last piece of his soul. Everyone else in the room faded away. He finally stood, wiping his eyes, not with shame, but with peace. He turned to the staff and his voice was steady. "She is not staying here another night." They hesitated until they saw the expression in his eyes. Not anger, not pride, responsibility. As he walked her out, pushing her wheelchair slowly toward the open doors, Mildred looked confused for a second, then saw the sunlight, the warmth, the sky. Her lips curved into a faint childlike smile, a smile that had not lived on her face for decades. Ethan paused, whispered, not to her, but to the world. "This time, I am the one bringing her home." Outside, the air smelled like fresh rain and cut grass. A car waited. Not the luxury one, but the sedan he used to ride in with her when she was all he had. Sometimes love does not speak loudly. Sometimes it waits 30 years in silence. Subscribe for more stories where forgotten love is finally seen, and silence turns into strength. How many people right now are still waiting? For someone to remember they exist?